You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Home Field Apparel.
Right up Meridian, baby.
Welcome into the Right Up Meridian podcast here on the Back Home Network. I'm Zion Brown, and Scott Caulfield is back with me. How's it going, Scott?
Let's go, man. How you doing? Good to talk. We're there, man. We're like a week away. There was preseason last night.
Yeah, no, season starts. We're recording this on the 8th. Season starts on the 23rd, so about 2 weeks away from that first game. And, like, I don't know how you feel. A month or two ago, I was like, man, I don't know, like, if I have any like real excitement towards the season just because of the way the last season ended and not having Tyrese Halliburton for this year. But as we get closer and closer, I'm like, I'm ready to watch this team in some real action.
Same. No, I went through the exact same feel where I'm like, I don't know if I can have a whole season. I might just take a season off. And then you start watching some of the preseason, and it's like, yeah, I'm all back in. I mean, it's tough because you still see Halliburton and Tyrese is still there and he's doing stuff. And he's on the court, he's on the court with the guys, and it's like, damn, I know I'm gonna need you to talk me off the ledge in like March when I'm wanting to get him back onto the court, which is not what should happen and isn't what's going to happen. That's what's gonna be tough. But no, we're back, man. It always comes anew. You always get back in this time. It's like you're ready for a new season.
Yeah, and well, on that note, I don't think this is going to happen with Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know if you've seen Jason Tatum a week or two ago said he's not ruling out trying to come back this season, which I frankly think is ridiculous. Like, I know he got this kind of advance. He got the surgery hours before he tore his Achilles and whatnot. And of course he tore his about a month or so before Halliburton because that was in the second round. But like, he's trying to come back this year. Once again, I think it's a terrible idea. But I don't know if you've seen that, but that was just crazy to me to even hear him say that.
I have, and it's weird. It's going to be really interesting to see both the two of them on this rehab. And something like Bill Simmons, if you listen to Bill Simmons at all, he's been all over this because he's a huge Celtics guy. But Tatum's injury his rehab is going to be really interesting because and I'm pulling a lot of this from what Simmons has said on his pod. But the top Achilles injury repair surgeon is in New York. And so that's who also Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum both went to the same doctor to have their surgeries. The thing with Tatum is he was already in New York when his injury happened, so he didn't have to fly anywhere. And I think he had the surgery like 17 or 18 hours after the injury. Like, it is one of the tightest timelines we've ever seen on this surgery. And, as a layman, you're like, oh, that's great. That means it's going to be, quicker rehab. Don't know. Like, neither of us are doctors. You don't know. Like, is it better to have a couple of days and let it kind of get to a point where it's better to repair? Is it better to repair it that quick? We don't know. It does beg the question of, again, the Pacers are in the exact same boat. I love the fact they just said, hey, he shut down for the year with Halliburton, because both the Pacers and Celtics are in this spot where I think they're both going to be good enough to not suck and tank, but they're not going to be good enough to compete at a high level. So it's like, what if either of those players can come back in like April or May? It's like, what the hell are you doing to just get a 4 seed and win a first round? And right. I mean, because if you have the back-to-back injury, now you're in a whole different world. And my memories, you get older, Zion, you'll see your memory goes and it gets bad. But like this happened to Klay Thompson. Like, Klay Thompson was healthy, and then I think he had an ACL, and he came back from that and then tore his Achilles. And, it's not that those things are related, but it's like once you have an injury, you handle the load on your body differently and you start moving in a different way. And it's like that would be my biggest concern for either of these guys coming back immediately, is like, if you're a little ginger on that foot, or you're just getting back into, like, could you injure something else because of the way you're acting to get better on the Achilles side?
Right, yeah. If I remember correctly with Klay, it was 2020, so that was the year where obviously the timeline was so weird with the NBA season, but it was like November or December. He had, like you said, recovered from the ACL tear, and he was just working out. The season was like a month away or something, and then he tore the Achilles right after that. So that was a wild situation. So he's supposed to only miss 1 year and missed 2. So, I don't know how that's going to work with Tatum. And once again, I highly doubt that'll happen with Halliburton. And I still highly doubt it'll happen with Tatum as far as coming back, but he has not yet ruled himself out.
When he showed him like working out, running full court, it's like, Jason, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you trying to impress? It's like the Ben Simmons workout routine there.
Right. He's a guy that I like that hates missing games, right? And so like he's rarely ever missed time in his career. So going through an injury like this for Tatum specifically has to feel very odd. But I want to remind folks once again, all of these Back Home Network podcasts are presented by Home Field. Go to homefieldapparel.com and use code HOME23 for 15% off. Scott, have you seen the varsity jackets that are dropping this Friday?
I have not seen. I have the IU one, but I've not seen the new ones they're dropping.
They're dropping some new ones 10 a.m. Friday. I think it's 15 schools. IU and Purdue are included in that, and they look really nice. I like them.
They're hot looking, like the silk. Yeah, I bumped into Connor from Home Field at an IU game a couple weeks ago, and he was wearing the black one. It looks great.
Yeah, no, I think they look great. I saw the Oregon one. I know that's probably a bad thing to say this week, but the Oregon one.
No.
They've got the old school duck logo. It looked nice. So yeah, go ahead, check that out. Especially, like I said, IU and Purdue fans, they will have both of those on Friday morning. All right, let's get into it with Pacers talk, training camp, media day, what we've heard from that. And of course, like you said, the first preseason game yesterday. I'll let you take the floor here, Scott. What has kind of stood out to you from what you've seen so far from those things?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to pull up some box scores and it keeps getting pop-up. ESPN, stop with the damn pop-up ads, bro. Like, it's so bad.
It's awful.
It is. What I've seen thus far from, training camp and everything that's come out is it's tough, man, because it still feels like a team that's cohesively together. Like, you see these guys, they all seem to be in that same kind of mindset, and they all are saying the right things, which is like, we're not throwing the season away. We're going to go at it. We're going to play hard. You definitely saw, and I'm kind of mixing with also the game last night. You saw, Nembhard playing the point a lot more. That's probably the way it's going to be. Everyone looks to be in good shape. You saw a lot of Furphy last night, which we'll talk about. But I think, to me, that's what I'm kind of looking for the most is, I'm really curious to see what Jay Huff looks like. Is he going to be a real answer? But really, it's like, this comes down to me. This is a season of Jarris Walker and Furphy. Because it's like, are those guys anything? Are they really something that you can build around or have as a piece of a championship team? Because they are, that's great. If not, like, you've got to get them out and replenish it with guys that are.
Right, exactly. It's a big season for those two guys, and I'd add Benedict Mathurin into that as well, just seeing what you have with him on his expiring contract now. But yeah, what stood out to me is how much this team has talked about wanting to keep up the pace that they've played at.
Yeah.
And just wanting to play fast and wanting to do all those things, because obviously you feel like Tyrese Halliburton was the guy that really let them play the way they've played the last few years as far as the pace goes and everything. And you want to see how that transition is going into this year. And you mentioned Nembhard and the way that, he was the main point guard last night in that preseason game. And I was thinking about it, and it's like, when it comes to this team, you have so many players who are good at playing fast. And like, I don't know about you, when I think about all the players on this team who play well in transition, of the guys that actually play like in the rotation, he's kind of the last guy I think about when it comes to playing fast. Like, I can't remember too many like great transition Andrew Nembhard moments over the last 2 years, right? He's like a half court guy, and obviously just defensively guarding the best player on the other team. But like, I want to see how he can adjust to that. Obviously, just being the point guard in general, that's an adjustment for him, being the full-time point guard, and then being that point guard on an offense that plays so quickly, when he's the guy that I feel like is more methodical in his approach.
Yep. No, and what's interesting with the fast play is everybody, Halliburton does play with a definite pace, but, watching the games, and I'm sure the stats bear this out, McConnell plays faster than Halliburton. Like, McConnell really pushes the pace, and he really pushes that offense. So there's a world where this team could actually be even a little bit faster with a Nembhard, McConnell, McConnell getting more time at point guard than they were last year with Halliburton.
Right, that's a good point. And I always loved when McConnell came in off the bench over the last couple of years, because I would say both him and Tyrese play fast, but in totally different ways. Like, Tyrese wants the ball in the backcourt, around half court, and he's going to throw it up ahead to whoever he thinks is open, whoever he thinks can make a play. Whereas TJ McConnell wants to get the ball, dribble it 70 feet down the court, and then make a play that way, right? It's like the different approach to playing fast, even though they're both playing fast, but it's completely different. I think that would throw teams off a lot last year. So I'm curious to see, like you said, if McConnell is playing alongside Nembhard a lot this season, just what that looks like.
Yep.
All All right, you touched on it, and I think we should just get into it before we do our main segment, which is kind of looking at the East as a whole. The Johnny Furphy stuff is just so encouraging to me. Like, I look at him right now. Obviously, you have the highlight dunk over Jay Huff in practice, but it's not just that, right? It's everything they've said about Johnny Furphy so far throughout camp and whatnot. He has really seemed to impress everyone, and he looked impressive, like you said, in the preseason game yesterday. And I look at him, and I'm like, can he be Aaron Neesmith-esque, like offensively only? Like, I don't defensively, I don't know if at his size he'll be able to move and really guard the way Aaron Neesmith does. Just Furphy's that 6'8", 6'9", but like, can he be a guy who can knock down threes and attack you off a closeout and whatnot, and really just be a really good complementary player? Because if he can, I mean, that does a lot for this team, and not even just this year, but in the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's not just in the in training camp. He had the dunk in the summer league this year. He had a dunk that made the rounds. You literally Google just did it to find his stats. Johnny Furphy, the first thing that comes is Johnny Furphy dunks, because he had one in summer league. He had one last night against the Timberwolves where he threw down, and it looks like he's going higher every time he does it. Now, the huge caveat here is, thus far, all of the Furphy dunks and highlights and everything has come in summer league, or it's come in preseason. I mean, he has not really put this together in an NBA regular season game yet. But like you, man, I mean, there's a lot of guys who also don't have any highlights in any of those situations either. It seems like he's playing with confidence. It seems like he does have that ability to be kind of a rim runner and has the aggression. And what's funny is, thus far, what I've seen, and you can only go off, again, I'll quit caveating it because it's like you can only play what he's played. But in the times that he's played, he's been more aggressive in weird ways in my mind than Jarris Walker. Like, Jarris Walker probably has more physical talent and just more physical ability and like a body that seems to be built for the NBA. But at times, Jarris looks a little tentative, scared, like not sure what to do. Like, I'll give Furphy this. In these games, you watch him, it's like, dude, he's just attacking. He's like, screw it, I'm going to go up. I'm going to try and dunk. Like, he looks very assertive. Whether he can do that when he's starting to get real defense on him, I don't know. But he's the one thus far. It's like, dude, if this guy can turn into something and be like an Obi Toppin light, you really have something here.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I'd say somewhere between that Toppin type of player and that Neesmith, because he's not as big as Obi Toppin, or at least not as kind of physical. Like, Obi Toppin's the guy they put at the 5 sometimes, and I don't really see a world where they're doing that with Johnny Furphy. But somewhere in between that, and that's a good point you mentioned, even with Jarris Walker, and I believe that's something Rick Carlisle said throughout some of his media availabilities lately, is just that Jarris Walker has to play quicker. He has to catch the ball. It's this like idea. It's popularized in the NBA. I think it's becoming more popular in college basketball, but they call it like the 0.5 rule. It's like, you catch the ball, and within half a second, you're dribble, passing, or shooting. Like, you have to do something with the ball. You can't catch and hold, basically. I feel like Jarris Walker is still trying to figure that out, right? Heading into his 3rd year in the NBA. And in a sense, like you said, Johnny Furphy has kind of adjusted to that a little better, I'd say.
Well, it's a guy, so I just found it. I mean, he only played 1 year at Kansas, but he shot 35% from 3. And it's like, that's what you're going to need out of him, is can he be a stretch, and can he shoot, can he come in this year and shoot 34% from 3 on limited attempts? And then can he run an attack? Because, I mean, that's what you need with this team. That's what you need with Tyrese Halliburton, is guys who can run and attack and go at it. There's also a play that I saw. I didn't watch a ton of the Timberwolves game, but another play where like Jay Huff had the ball middle of the post, kind of looked, and then Furphy just did a back cut straight down the lane. Huff hit it to him. Furphy had a little back. It's like he's starting to get in the right spots and move to the right places. So it's oddly been encouraging for a guy who last year was kind of like, what do we have here? Like, what is this? This is kind of a joke when he comes in. You look at this, like, this might be a great year for him where he actually can turn into some useful piece. And he's young as heck. I mean, he's what, 21 years old, 20?
Yeah, he's a very young player. I remember when they drafted him, it was kind of surprising that they drafted him, because I was helping out on some Pacers coverage at the time, and I was going to some of the workouts they were holding, and they didn't even work him out. They were working out basically strictly guys who were already like 21 or above for that pick. And then we get to draft day, and they draft him with their 2nd round pick, and the the front office, right? Kevin Pritchard and company were basically just like, we didn't think he'd be around for our picks, so we didn't bring him in for a workout. So that kind of shows you just what the Pacers think about him and his potential. The fact that basically they were dead set on drafting an older guy until they were like, whoa, Johnny Furphy is still on the board.
Yeah, and you still go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say you still have time, and that, like, you know, again, this is where I love and hate the NBA, but it's like it always comes down to contracts with the NBA and the timeline of things. But you look at, you know, Furphy this year is at, you know, 1 point. Let me pull it up here. It's you know, he's basically $2 million, 1.9 this year, but next year he's under contract, and then again a team option in year 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's where, you know, this is where I love that Yogi Berra line. It gets late early. It's like Walker is in, you know, next year is the last year of his deal. It's like you're getting to a point. I think he's extension eligible at the end of this season. Like, this is kind of the problem you got yourself in with Jarris Walker, drafting a guy that high in the lottery. Dude, Walker's making $6.5 million this year. Next year is the last year of his deal. Like, you've kind of wasted all of that time of having a young guy on a young deal. It's like you've got to make some real tough Walker decisions this year. And it's tough because I don't feel like we really have had any good set of watching Walker play. So to me, it's like I want to see Furphy play a ton because you got to get these answers quicker. And that's, again, my complaint they had with Walker. And you had a good team. You had a relatively experienced team. I think you could have had more time with Walker because now you're at a point where you kind of got to figure it out with Walker probably before this year's trade deadline.
Right. I would definitely agree there. And you mentioned the preseason game. For those who didn't see, the Pacers won it 135, 134 in overtime. Starters played about 10 to 15 minutes each. And then you had the terrible 2 injuries to point guards. It's like, we're doing this again. TJ McConnell went down, and so did DeLon Wright. And Wright, of course, is fighting for a roster spot. And so we'll see kind of how long either of those guys are out. But very, very unfortunate to see 2 point guards go down immediately in that preseason game.
Yeah, what was McConnell's injury? I didn't see that. I just saw
it was some sort of hamstring injury.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm not sure how serious it was. Obviously, preseason's just like summer league. It's like as soon as something happens to you, you're out of the game. You're out. So like, I'm not sure how serious it was, but he did have to kind of walk back to the locker room and be ruled out for the rest of that game after playing, I think, just 8 minutes. So hopefully he's all right.
Yeah. And yeah, you feel bad for a guy like DeLon Wright, where it's like he's in his mid-30s. This is one of probably his last chance. It's like you got a real shot here to play, and this is where like a tough injury you could lose your chance.
And after they only signed him because they had signed Monte Morris, but then they brought Monte Morris in, and he had an injury, and they were like, well, we can't really wait on that until he heals, so they signed DeLon Wright instead. So the Pacers are still trying to look for another point guard, basically, and they just all keep getting injured. And right now, Ben Shepherd's also out right now with an injury, and so is Cam Jones, who is kind of like a combo, 1-2 type of guard. So we haven't been able to see Cam Jones in NBA action either, but not sure how long any of those guys will be out. I think Ben Shepherd for sure is supposed to be ready for the regular season, but we'll see if those guys return at some point.
And I look at Ben Shepherd as like, to me, he's become more and more important on this team, especially as you look at guys like Furphy, where to me, it's like those two go together because Shepherd can provide the defense. I mean, Shepherd honestly is turning into a really useful, backup bench NBA player, a guy who can come in, give you great defense, hit some threes, be smart on offense, not need the ball a ton. And I look at him as like he can provide a lot of the defensive coverage for maybe a guy like Furphy as he grows into his body and becomes a little better. So again, that's what you want to see out of Furphy is like more offense because I don't think it's the defensive there, but that's where Shepherd is great because he has the 3-point shooting, but also provides some pretty damn good like lockdown defense.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Shepherd guy. Just the way he just fights defensively out there, right? You see him guarding, guys like Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson in last year's playoffs, and the jump shot finally came back in the playoffs, right? That was kind of a struggle for him the second half of last season, and it's kind of going to decide. I think he'll have a solid NBA career, a decently long career regardless, but I feel like how well he shoots the ball may just decide how much money he makes throughout his career, right? Whether he's getting these higher level, mid-level deals or kind of getting stuff that's less than that going forward in his career.
Yep.
All right, we're going to look at some of these East that we feel like are in the same tier as the Pacers. I think that's our agenda for today, and trying to decide which ones we would say the Pacers are better than in, or which ones the Pacers are worse than, to try to decide that. I want to start off, Scott, see if we agree here. to me, there's 3 teams in the East that I think should be the top 3 seeds if they're healthy, and that is the Cavs, of course. They were the 1 seed last year.
Yep.
The Knicks, and then my third. I don't know if everybody agrees with this. I don't know if you agree with this. Is the Magic. To me, those are the 3 teams that I think will be better than everybody else. Do you disagree?
I agree with you, although I would have a 4th team that I'd put in there.
Let's get into it. What's your 4th?
And my 4th team is I would put the Pistons in there. I think they showed a lot of grit a lot early. I think if Cade continues to grow, they could be in there. And I was also looking, so I have the odds for the East Conference winners. And you pulled the top 3. The Cavs are plus 225, the Knicks are plus 325, the Magic are plus 550. The Pistons have another team in between them, but I look at the Pistons as possibly a team that could be up there as well.
My thing with the Pistons is I feel like it's hard to make 2 consecutive like big jumps as a team year to year, right? We just saw them make the big jump last year, and I think they've got a decent foundation, a decent core for the future. But I don't know if I could see and a jump here and what we're talking about would be going from the 6th seed to the 4th seed, but like which is obviously possible, but I just don't know.
You're Ivy, you get Cade stepping up again. I don't know. I mean, because I guess you could say the same thing with the Magic. The Magic kind of had they turned into like a team that could make the play in last year. And then it's like, them stepping up to the 3 seed in the East is a big jump.
Right. With them, I say that the Bane edition will help with the jump. And then you also have to remember with the Magic that Franz and Paolo missed a significant amount of time during last season. So their 41-41 record from last year, I feel like probably would have been, maybe 5 or 6 wins higher if they're at regular health. And also Jalen Suggs missed time for them. So that's kind of 3 of their best players. So the way I see it with them is that I just think that roster is too loaded now. You got 3 guys who can get you 20 to 25 on any night, plus some solid role players. But we can add the Pistons in there. See, to me, I had the Pistons in this other tier, which is the tier I think the Pacers are in, which is just kind of everyone else, right? This is the tier of guys that have teams that can be as high as the 4 or the 5 seed and as low as, the 9 or the 10. So I've got the Pistons in this same tier with the Bucks, the Hawks, still have the Celtics. We'll see how that goes. I'd put the 76ers here on my list. I can't trust that team to stay healthy, right? We don't even know what's going on with Joel Embiid still, right? If he'll be healthy for day 1 or not. And then I've got the Heat in that tier as well.
I think I would break it off a little bit. I agree with you on that big tier. I would break that tier into 2 tiers. So to me, it's like I'd have the top 4, the Cavs, Knicks, Magic, and Pistons. For me, those would be the top 4, with honestly the Cavs and the Knicks being their own tier. Like I think the Cavs and the Knicks are going to be the top 2 teams. I think the Magic and Pistons are right below that. I agree with your clumping of that next group of teams. For me, I kind of put I would say like the Bucks and the Hawks and maybe the Celtics are in kind of the top of that tier. Cause I think the Celtics still have a lot of talent. Even though they've quietly lost a lot more than just Tatum. It's like you look up, it's like, oh, Porzingis is gone. And Holiday is gone. It's like they've lost a lot more than you think. But I look at that and, the Hawks are kind of that team. It's like right now they're 4th odds in the East. And it's like, I don't know based on what, like outside of one run, like is Trey really going to do that? But I feel like the Hawks are the biggest beneficiary of a lot of teams in the East being injured. That said, I would put them at the top of that tier. To me, the bottom of that tier that you mentioned would be the 76ers, the Pacers, and the Heat. And that's how I would kind of break it up.
Yeah, I get that. I'm similar as far as breaking it up the way that you did. I think the Celtics is the one I might disagree with.
Yeah,
because you look at the Celtics, and for as many conversations that have been had about the Pacers big man room and the centers, and how much we don't know, I think the Celtics centers are worse than the Pacers. Right? They traded Porzingis. And now Horford left. He just signed with the Warriors last week. You look at the Celtics center room, I don't even know who's going to start. It's Neemias Queta, who wasn't even in the rotation these last few years. It's Luka Garza, who wasn't even in the Timberwolves rotation these last couple of years. Yeah. And Chris Boucher. And it's like, that is, to me, those guys have all been worse or shown me less than a guy like Isaiah Jackson, or even what we saw from Jay Huff in Memphis last year. Like, to me, I don't know if you can do much with that center room that they have, and losing Tatum and losing Drew Holiday. Like, I'm not super impressed with this roster, especially when you tell me they don't really have reliable options at the 5.
You may be right. As I'm looking, I don't really have a counter as I'm looking at it, like, because that's the thing. You go back to the Pacers, and again, we're too close to the situation here, but you look at the Pacers, it's like you still have Siakam and Nembhard and Toppin and Nesmith and McConnell and Mathurin, all guys who were like serious playoff players, like guys who showed that they can provide 10 to 20 minutes in the NBA finals. I just named 8 guys there, and I'm with you on the Celtics. It's like, all right, they have Hauser, great. You know, they have Pritchard, but yeah, like after that, it does get real tight. So I'm with you that I would have, maybe I'm going to update the Celtics out of that group. Yeah.
Right. And you look at the Celtics, they even lost a guy like Luke Cornett. He's in San Antonio now. And it's like, to me, when I found out that Al Horford probably wasn't coming back to Boston and that they were trading Porzingis, I looked at, okay, like Luke Cornett's a solid backup. Like, obviously he wouldn't be your preferred starting center, but in a kind of a rebuild year or a transition year, he's not a bad guy to have. But then even he left, and I'm like, okay, this is just not a very impressive center room that they have. And I'll go to Atlanta as well. I have them higher than the Pacers, only because I feel like that's a very deep roster that they have. Like, there's a lot of, and defensively, they have put a lot of defense around Trae Young in that roster, right? You look at, of course, Dyson Daniels was an all-defensive guy last year at the 2 guard. They added Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who helped Minnesota become a great defense over the last couple of years. You mentioned Porzingis. The question with him is always, how much will he play? But he will be there. Jalen Johnson had his season-ending injury last year, but he looked really good before that. So I feel like that's a really quality defensive infrastructure they have. And if we know anything about Trae Young, you put somewhat average guys around him offensively, and the offense is going to be pretty good. So that's why I feel like the baseline for the Hawks is pretty high, just because if they're healthy, I don't really see a world where they can't score and at least be okay defensively.
I also look at the Hawks as, you know, their cap this year, they're at $183 million of payroll this year. That Kristaps Porzingis salary is this year only. It's a $30 million expiring contract. So there's a world where they could take that, and I mean, they have room to go after somebody making 45, 50 million. You know, they could trade Porzingis and then add some salary and get up in the $200 million range. So I looked at their roster as you were talking through it and look at those salaries. To me, that's a team that looks like they have a move waiting mid-season if they want to go after it.
Right. And I think they're in this, I think they put this team around Trae Young, honestly, to say, hey, if you can't get us to that top 4 or top 5 seed level with this roster, then we're probably blowing this up. Right. Like, I just don't, because once again, like you said, they have benefited. They should be the team to benefit the most from all the injuries in the East and all these depleted teams, specifically the Celtics and the Pacers. Right. And they should be the team that can look at that and say, okay, we've got enough dudes to go and do this. If they're back in the play-in this year, it'll be a massive failure, I feel like, in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, 100%. Completely agree. Yeah. You know, all right, the other team to talk about here is the Bucks, because they are in this weird spot. I put them ahead just because they have Giannis. Like, there's a world where you look at this, it's like, all right, man, you got Giannis, you got Turner, like you have whatever left of the bones of a team that won a title. You know, whatever those bones are left, like you still have some, you know, playoff DNA. There's also a world where, like, I'm just really curious to get your thoughts on the Bucks, because they are really in this Pacers, you know, area of teams as well. Because I think you can see it both ways. You could look at it and be like, all right, yeah, you know, Bobby Portis, you know, he's a dog. Maybe Kevin Porter Jr. keeps it going. Kyle Kuzma gives you something. like better than zeros that he was giving. But, you know, Giannis and Turner could figure something out, and I could see them being a 4 or a 5 seed. There's also a world where it's like, man, Turner his best days were with Halliburton. Giannis gets pissed. Giannis doesn't play, has the ball all the time, and it becomes kind of the normal Giannis team where he's just doing everything. And the rest of the guys are just like, it's like Giannis and the Giannisets, and they're just watching him drag this team to a 7 seed.
Right. Yeah. You look at this. This is a really bad roster. Like I when they finalized the roster in the offseason, there was some tweet where like one of the accounts posted the full roster, and somebody was like, put your finger over Giannis and look at this roster. And I did it. I followed the tweet's instructions, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is awful. Like, this is just Giannis, please do your best to get us to where we want to go, because outside of him, it's bleak. And you talked about Miles Turner and not having a point guard. Like, this is probably the worst point guard group he's played with, right? If your point guard's Kevin Porter Jr., at least from like a feeding me the ball perspective, right? Kevin Porter Jr. can score in spurts, but from the perspective of I'm a center who needs to be, fed looks, I think Malcolm Brogdon was better for Miles. I think even a guy like Jeff Teague, right, early in Miles' career was probably more beneficial for him at the point guard spot. So you take a glance at this team, and it's like,
it's just funny you mentioned the put them over Giannis. Like, you start looking at this roster, and it's like, it's crazy to say this. Like, they might actually need something out of Thanasis. It's like, you look at the roster, it's like, Thanasis, man, we might actually need 5 points a game out of you. Like, can you actually do something besides just being there to cheer on your brother?
Yeah, you're in real trouble if that's the case, because I don't know if you're getting much out of him. But like, yeah, Giannis is the only guy that I think you can give the ball to on this team and say, hey, go get your own bucket. Like, literally the only player. Dame is gone now. Of course, Chris Middleton is gone. They traded for Kuzma, and I don't know, maybe he gets better this year, but the 3 months we saw of Kuzma on this team last year was a disaster, right? Like, it looked like he was playing for the Pacers sometimes in that playoff series. Like, it was bad. And so I just look at this team, and I'm like, they do have the best player in the East, right? That's clear. Nobody in the East comes close to playing as well as Giannis. But you do look at this team, and I can see a world where they're in the play-in and maybe even worse than the Pacers still. Maybe.
There's also something, it's fun, man. Go to the Basketball Reference, look at the contracts page. The Bucks are a wild contract page to look at, because you can be money does not dictate whether you're good or bad in the NBA. You can be on a rookie deal and not be making a lot and be a great player. That said, normally you want to have a couple guys making some money. That Giannis makes $54 million, Turner makes 25, Kuzma makes 22, Bobby Portis makes 13. That's it for guys making double digits. After that, everyone's making $5 million or less. And none of them, Zion, are on a rookie deal. Normally, if you're on your second or third deal and you're making $5 million or less, it normally means you are like you're in the Thanasis, Jericho Sims, Gary Harris setup, where you're just like really at the end of a rotation. Dude, that's half their team. Like, I've never seen a team where there's not 5 guys making double digits. Like, it's 4 dudes and then just all sub $4 million.
Right. I look at this team too, and it's like, I don't really see guys with a lot of trade value. Like, obviously Giannis has trade value. Miles Turner, I would say, has trade value. Portis, yes. And then after that, I don't know. Maybe you look at a guy like Gary Trent Jr., but his contract is so small. Same thing. AJ Green is actually somebody I like too, but his contract is $2.3 million. So like, when you're trying to get out of this, if you're trying to, just upgrade your role players, I don't really see the space to do this. And I'll go back again, not to harp on it, but I thought that trade to bring in Kyle Kuzma and get rid of Chris Middleton was just so mismanaged.
Yeah.
Like, and especially because when you bring in the human element of it, it's like, okay, Chris Middleton was a franchise legend. It's not that you can't ever trade him, but you got to get something back that is like legitimate when you get rid of Chris Middleton. And they got back a guy, once again, Kyle Kuzma, who still has 2 years left on his deal. It's not like it's an expiring contract you can trade at the deadline, right? That's a $22 million contract this year. He'll make another $20 million next year. And you look at it and it's like, I don't know if even if they tried to, if they could really get off of that deal. And so I don't know what any sort of move would be for this team to make mid-season. I'm sure they will make a trade at some point, but I'm not really sure how much it will affect their success overall.
So here's how I want to wrap this up or keep going with it. So I want to see where we rank teams ahead or behind the Pacers. So I'm just going to go with Cavs. I'm just keeping track here. Knicks, Magic, and the Pistons, we would both agree are going to finish ahead of the Pacers. All right, I'm comfortable saying they're ahead of the Pacers.
I agree.
Hawks, you would say are ahead of the Pacers?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now we kind of just did a deep dive on the Celtics and the Bucks. So this is the question. I don't know, man. As we talked about it, I think we have a better season than the Celtics. I really do. You talked me into it. I'm going to say that we are ahead of the Celtics.
I agree.
All right. I think we're ahead of the Bucks.
That's the one. I think the Bucks are still ahead of the Pacers.
I don't know.
Only because of what I said.
Giannis.
That's it. They have the best player in the East. For as bad as that team is, if he can play 70 to 75 games, I say he's going to do his, 32 points, 12 rebounds, all defensive level type of player. I still think maybe just barely, but I think that the Bucks will eke out a better record than the Pacers this year.
I agree with you. I'll keep it there. All right, next up, we'll kind of keep going. We have the Heat. We still have the 76ers out there in this group, but the Heat, you look at the Heat, they have Bam Adebayo, brought back Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, Norman Powell, Davion Mitchell. Those are all guys making over $10 million a year, something the Bucks don't have. You have Jokic or Nikola Jokic, not Denver's Jokic.
Right, Jokic.
I use on Khalil Ware. I like this. I think this is a team that could be funky. I don't think they're going to be good. I think they're playing worthy, but I think you've seen Hero and Bam drag a team to a 7-8 seed. I think this team probably is going to be better than the Pacers this year.
I guess my question with Miami is was last year the best year Tyler Hero will have? As harsh as that sounds, he made his first All-Star game. He averaged, 24 points a game, 24, 5 and 5, and shot the ball well. It's I think he's a good player. He certainly proved that last year, but it's will he ever have a year that good again or even better? I don't know. And then there's so many offensive questions with this team. It's you lost Jimmy Butler last year, and where is your offensive creation coming from? I guess my question for you would be, do you think that either of those two players, whether you think it's Bam or Hero, whichever one you think is their better player, do you think that they're better than Siakam is? And not that it's that simple as far as your best player is going to just decide how good you are, but just looking at it, I think Siakam, especially as an offensive option, is probably better than either of those guys.
I would agree. And this is where I'm looking at it. I think the Heat have, some movable pieces there. You have, Rozier and Powell are both on expiring deals. That's $46 million in expiring money. If you throw Fontecchio in there, it's another $8 million. There's $50 million basically that you could go after somebody with expiring money. Again, the question is who do you go after? That's a whole different conversation. The Heat make moves, and it feels like if I had to put money, part of the reason I have the Heat above the Pacers is right here we already have Cavs, Knicks, Magic, Pistons, Hawks, Bucks. So we have 6 teams ahead of wherever we're at right now. So if the Magic are in the 7th spot and the Pacers are in the 7th spot or the 8th spot in the East, I can see a situation, and I'm talking in February, I can see a situation where the Heat are we got to make a move and go to get to the 5 spot. I can see the Pacers saying, hey, we got to make a move where we got to shut down people and get to the 10 spot. So I think that's where I would have, because the Heat are in this spot where it's they've kind of been mid for 2 or 3 years. It feels like they need to make a move and do it with Bam and Hero versus blowing it up. So those things all kind of factor in where I could see them making a move and going after, and suddenly it's Bam, Hero, and question mark that make them a better team. So that's kind of what I'm factoring in.
Right. And I think you're convincing me here too, because just knowing the nature of the Heat, Pat Riley running that organization, they have Spoelstra, who I would still think is probably the best coach in the NBA. I don't see a world where they decide to tank.
Yeah.
And so because of that, you've convinced me. I agree with you there. I think they will
All right.
I will predict them to be better than the Pacers. Whether they are or not is yet to be seen. But I could see a world, like you said, where the Pacers kind of try to shut it down and the Heat are still going for it in February and March.
You got me into the Bucks. I got you into the Heat. Now here's a fun one: the Sixers. Like this is all just who the hell knows. I'll let you run. Give me your thoughts on the Sixers. Where do they fit above or below the Pacers? This is a tough one, man.
I think roster construction wise, it is absolutely a better team than the Pacers will trot out this season without Tyrese Halliburton, right? You have a guy who, when he's healthy, is a top 5, maybe probably even top 3 player in the NBA. Tyrese Maxey is an all-star level guy. Paul George, I don't expect it to be, if he's healthy, if he's out there, I don't expect it to be as bad as it was last year. Last year was like, it was coming like an unprecedented drop off from what he was. Like, you expect a guy that old to get worse, but I feel like he'll be slightly better. And then I like some of the moves they made in the offseason. They brought back Quentin Grimes, who was really impressive down the stretch for them. I like the VJ Edgecombe pick. And so you look at the moves this team made. I really liked a lot of the things they did. Jared McCain is coming back for them this year. I say all that to say there is absolutely no reason for me to trust that this will be a healthy team this season, specifically the star player. Once again, he missed basically all of last season. We're 2 weeks away from the start of this season, and nobody has any idea if he is going to play when the season starts. Like, we have gotten nothing from them to say he will be available, or it'll be until November, or he won't play at all. We have heard nothing, and that does not make me feel any level of comfort or confidence in what this team can do. So I think they'll be worse than the Pacers because I don't know how much Joel Embiid will play.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild to think that they kind of tanked last year because they were 24-58. I mean, they kind of did the tank thing because of injuries. This is a weird team, man. This is a very weird. I would not want to be a Sixers fan because you look at. I look at this roster just as a complete just NBA fan, not a Sixers fan, and I'm like, dude, I would rip it all down and build around Maxey. Like, I think Maxey is one. Watching him play, he's frightening to watch play. He is so damn good. He scares the hell out of me as an opposing fan. He's 24 years old. It's like, you have a stud. You should build around that. Not Embiid, not George. Those guys their time is done, but they're stuck with those contracts. They literally just extended Embiid. What are you doing? I'm with you, man. I don't know how. I'm going to assume they're just not going to stay healthy. And if you're not healthy, it becomes Maxey and a bunch of dudes. And they've Kyle Lowry on this team. He's 39. I mean, Paul George is 35. I mean, it's like it's gotten to that point where you're probably going to see diminishing returns year over year with Paul George, and you're not going to stay that healthy, dude. You're in your late 30s. I mean, this is what happens unless you're LeBron. And Maxey has shown he's a fantastic player, but he's not a guy who can lead a team. And it's just there's not enough help around him after you get rid of Embiid and George, and that's partially because those dudes are making $110 million together. So, yeah, I think this team will be worse than the Pacers. So I'm going to put them below the Pacers as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And with Paul George, it's just like the whole point of signing him. They signed him to the 4-year max deal that they gave him. And I think when they signed him, they probably knew year 4 and probably even year 3, he won't be the level of player we need him to be. I think the whole point of that deal was like these first 2 seasons of it, while he's 34 and 35, pairing him up with Joel Embiid and going for a title. Well, 1 year has already been wasted down the drain. And even if they're healthy, I think it's a good team. I still don't know if I would pick them to like win the East over Cleveland or New York, right? And so I think at best, this is the 3rd best team in the East, which is not what this franchise envisioned whatsoever when they signed Paul George.
Here's another one, man, that's going to scratch our heads. This is a different. We're going to go now. If you don't mind, I'm going to move to a new bracket of teams because we've hit everybody. Dude, the Wizards and Hornets suck. Like, they are good. Well, maybe we could talk about the Hornets. Maybe the Wizards suck.
Thank you. Okay, I was going to cut you off there on them. Continue.
I thought, and I think you're right. But let's do Raptors, Bulls, Hornets, or Raptors, Bulls, Nets, and maybe Hornets together. But if I look at the Raptors, this is a weird team, man. If you haven't looked at the Raptors and their salary, it's like this is a team that looks like they are ready to make a run at a championship just when you look at their salaries. But then you look at the names attached to it, and it's like the all-star list of guys under 30 who got paid way too early, like Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickly, say that 3 times, and RJ Barrett. Those 4 dudes, they're paying like $150 million to those 3 dudes. It's 38, 38, 32, 27. Those are big numbers, Zion. Those are huge, huge contract numbers. This team is on the books for $197 million this year. I don't know how it's constructed. I don't know what's going on. I think there's a world they actually could be better than the Pacers just because you have a lot of young talent that could figure it out and maybe play together. But I also could just see this being another one of these teams like that they've been just kind of ever since they had their championship run where it's like, I'm honestly not sure how any of these pieces fit together.
Bingo. That last point there is exactly where I was going to go with it. Like I have no clue. You look at this roster and it's just like, what is the purpose with this team? How does this team want to play? Because when you look at the roster and you look at the names they have on this team, it's like, I don't see anything from this team that gives me any sort of indication that, they want to be a defensive oriented team. They want to be a team that plays fast. They want to be a team with great shooting. Like, it's just kind of a little bit of everything and a lot of nothing at the same time. Yeah. And it's just such an odd roster. Just as a side note, this feels really weird to me. Brandon Ingram is going into his 10th NBA season, which is just like, I don't know.
Yeah, he's only
that
28.
feels like so strange that he has been in the league for a decade.
Well, and this is a team that feels like the unbelievable anti-Pacers. And what I mean by that is the Pacers all have, I would say this before their finals run, had a bunch of dudes who just seem to care and want to play hard, like an Obi Toppin think of Ben Shepherd going out there and just busting his ass on defense. This team is a bunch of guys who got paid and I'm not sure care. Like Brandon Ingram, it's like he's been what he had, like you said, 10 years. He's been what he's been in the league. A guy who makes 30, 35 million. And it's like, does he really go balls to the wall at all times? You could say the same thing for Scotty Barnes. It's like RJ Barrett fits in that category. Like there's a lot of dudes here where it's like they put up numbers and they would just make you think like, oh yeah, you got to pay that guy 30 million. Then you watch him play and it's like, are they going hard versus like you watch, McConnell play and it's like, yes, this guy's going all out all the time, regular season game. So I think we're better than the Raptors. I think we'll finish ahead of the Raptors.
I agree. It feels like, here's the best way I can put it with the Raptors. It feels like their top 4 players, Barnes, Ingram, Barrett, and Quickly, are like 4 guys who are all trying to prove themselves.
Yeah.
And that to me doesn't make for a good recipe for it's like imagine if the Pacers had 4 Benedict Mathurin's on the roster this season. It'd be like, no, you don't need that. You need maybe one of those guys, right, who's trying to prove himself. And it feels like Toronto has 4 of those guys, which means it's just not going to fit right to me.
Dude, you hit it on the head. That's a perfect example, dude. Like, that's great. Like, yeah, like they are all Benedict dude. Leave it there. Well done. Well done.
So yeah, I think they're better than the Raptors. The Nets, you mentioned the Nets. I think the Nets are as bad as the Wizards are. I think the Hornets are probably better than both those teams. The way I see it.
I'm looking at the roster right now. I was just going off of the odds. You're right. I would take the Nets under right now. Their team sucks. Like, there's not much more to say.
And then the Bulls, the Bulls, like the Hawks, like live in the play-in. So like I'm not counting them out for being better than the Pacers, but just because that's the nature of their team. But it's such an uninteresting team to even talk about, the Chicago Bulls. It's like, what are you like? Modest Buzelis is cool, kind of, right? He had an okay rookie season, but other than that, it's like I don't even want to talk about this team. They're so uninteresting.
Yeah, I mean, who's the Giddy's their best? I mean, that's a wild. Yeah, the Bulls are a wild team. Let's talk about the Hornets because you scoffed quickly at the Hornets when I threw them as the worst in the league. I mean, I guess this comes down to what are your thoughts on LaMelo Ball? I mean, I guess they have Miles. I'm looking at their team now. Miles Bridges. I forgot they had Sexton, but to me, this comes down to, I guess, your feelings on LaMelo Ball. And to me, it's like LaMelo Ball is a dude who puts up stats and is on a bad team.
Yes. I don't disagree with that necessarily, right? Like, I don't think you're winning a championship running things through LaMelo Ball, but I could see this team getting back into the play-in. If Ball is healthy, which, like Joel Embiid, the last couple of years for him, that has been a big if. You get a little bit of a jump from Brandon Miller, someone who I like. I kind of like their big man room. They have Ryan Kalkbrenner. They drafted him and got him. Mason Plumlee's okay. They have some decent bigs. Like I see a pathway for this team being, Pacers and Heat level is the way I look at it. They have guys. They brought in Colin Sexton, who can score the ball pretty efficiently, right? He's not a guy you're going to ask to lead your offense, but he can get you 18 points and shoot the ball well. And so you look at the collection of parts with this team. It's a lot better than what they've had in the last couple of years. At the very least, this is a much better roster than they've had. They drafted Con Knipple and Liam McNeely, two guys that I think at least one of those guys will hit, if not both of them. Like, once again, I just think it's a much better team that they've got around them. They still could be the 10th seed or the 11th seed, and that wouldn't surprise me either. But I do see a world and a pathway for this team. So it's kind of put it all together and look like a somewhat cohesive team in the East.
Yep. Just for fun, we'll talk about the Wizards. I agree with you on that, by the way. And I could see a world where LaMelo Ball and Knipple and Brandon Miller kind of figure something out. And those pieces do seem to make sense and fit. And that's like a young, fun team that I could see getting to the 9 seed. Not being great, still being under 500.
Theoretically, that team should be able to shoot the ball extremely well. So they're going to have nights where they win, not because they're playing good defense or anything, just because they make, 18 threes and the other team is like, well, we lost,
Yep. The Wizards, man, wow. They've been bad for a while, and they're going to continue to be bad. Their two highest paid players are Chris Middleton and CJ McConnell, both expiring contracts. Like, that's good. They're only on the books next year for $70 million. Then you have Kispert and Sarr, Trey Johnson, Koulibaly. You get real rough real quick. This is going to be another bad year. I don't know what they're doing. And you're like, what's funny is, like, again, you're in the second year of Sarr. Like, Sarr's contract eligible next year. It's like, at some point you got to start doing something with these teams. I don't know, man. Yeah, they're going to be probably the worst team in the East.
Franchise that still has not won 50 games in a season in my lifetime. I don't even think in your lifetime either. Like, it's the 70s. Like, it's been incredibly long since this team has won 50 games. And to keep it brief, I don't think that streak ends this season.
Yeah.
This team is and they have some promising young guys, I will say. Like, I like Bub Carrington a little bit. Bilal Koulibaly has shown flashes, but I mean, it's just a weird roster. They took in those big expiring contracts, like you mentioned, for a reason, and they're just going to try to get rid of those guys at the deadline or just let those contracts expire. But as far as this season goes, I don't even see a path for this team to make the play-in.
Dude, I completely agree. It's wild. You have Middleton at $33 million, CJ McCollum at $30 million, and then Marcus Smart is not on the team, but he's on the books for $21 million. So you got like $80 million right there on 3 dudes. And I would put money by the end of the year, Middleton and McCollum are not playing, or they're not playing for the Wizards. Like, it's just, you have 3 guys making $80 million. It's not there. So, all right, man, here's what I have. I think based on this, I still don't think the Pacers are going to be bad. I think they're going to be fun. But based on everything we said, here's my list of where I have people broken out. But I have, in no particular order, teams above us for sure: the Cavs, the Knicks, the Magic, the Pistons, the Hawks, the Bucks, and the Heat. And then I have 4 teams vying for those last 2 play-in spots. I have the Bulls, Hornets, 76ers, and Celtics. I know we have the Celtics below the Pacers and the Sixers below the Pacers, but I can see a world where if the Pacers are in that 8-9, if we're below the Bucks and the Heat and the Hawks, and we're kind of treading water in that 8-9, I think we have more reason to dump and just try and finish off, sit Siakam, sit Mathurin, just kind of sit some dudes, play a lot of Furphy. I think we have more reason to do that than the Hornets, the Sixers, and the Celtics, honestly. So I could see all 3 of those, and the Bulls you mentioned just are going to be there because that's what they do. I could see a world where this has us finishing 11th or 12th in the East and not in the play, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. And again, it's based on the Pacers intentionally kind of letting go of the rope in March.
Right. Yeah, I could definitely see that world. So I think probably the highest I can see them is the 6th, and the lowest is like the 12th, somewhere in that range. just depending on how everything goes. But I think we're in agreement as far as where we see them, where they stack up against these other teams, health permitting. But we'll see how the Pacers decide to play this season, depending on what these first, 2.5 months look like.
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up it's tough to look at schedules this early, but where's our schedule and results? I'm not sure if it's not posted here. I mean, I just go to ESPN, but it's going to keep putting up pop-ups. It's going to make a bunch of noise, but it's tough to look. It's not like football where you can be like, they're going to start here. But I think so much of this, I think the end of the season is going to be dictated so much by probably between now and Christmas, when no one's really paying attention to the NBA outside of you and me. It's going to how things happen. And if they have kind of a stumble or just don't play well, or a couple teams get off to a real hot start, I could see it being like, all right, if they're locked into that 8-9 spot, I could see them just kind of shutting it down super early.
I agree with that. So yeah, we'll see how they do. But I like this experiment, looking at these other teams, talking it through, because I think talking it through helped both of us realize that, okay, maybe team A isn't as good as we thought, or maybe team B will do a little better than we thought. So I like doing this a lot.
I agree. And I think, so what would you like to see happen? The season hasn't started yet. How would you like to see this play out? Like, as we were talking, would you like to see us get in the play in? Would you like to see us just let go and not make the play? And what's kind of your ideal season based on everything we talked about in the teams and where we see us?
I'd like to see them compete. Honestly, I'd like to see them go for the play-in, or maybe, like I said, even the 6th spot where you're a spot above the play-in. But to me, it's just like, I don't think this team unless they are actually going to get a top 5 pick, which I just don't see happening. I don't see a world where they're that bad. I don't think they need another 19 or 20-year-old on this team to try to grow and build. We've seen the issues with that with Jarris Walker, as we talked about. They got Johnny Furphy because they were able to get him in the 2nd round, but if they had picked Johnny Furphy as a lottery pick, like you talked about with that comparison with him and Jarris Walker, I'm not sure that would have been the best thing in the world. So it's like, okay, you can tank and try to get a decent draft pick, but I'm just not sure that's what's best for the Pacers this season, or I guess what's best for them going forward. I think what's best is finding out, because it's still a super young team outside of TJ McConnell and Pascal Siakam. Everybody else that's going to play is still extremely young. And so I think you still got to figure out what you have in those guys going forward, so you can use that to build the best team possible around Tyrese Halliburton once he's back. So I want to see this team compete throughout the whole season. Now, if you have a situation where Andrew Nembhard or Pascal Siakam suffers an injury that keeps them out for, let's say, more than a month, then, I would understand if they kind of tried to shut things down. But if everyone is actually fairly healthy, I want this team to go for it to the best of their ability.
So we kind of differ a little bit. I want to see him compete. I want to see him play hard. I'm with you. And you are, dude, you're dead on. And I honestly, I say this and I forget it. And I have to be reminded by you, because you're smart. It's still a young team. Like, it really is. You take McConnell and Siakam's also not super old. He's 31. It's not like he's 35. We still have 4 or 5 more years of good Siakam. Everyone else is in their mid to early 20s. It's still a really young team. So that would be the one pushback, is like, maybe they could add one more young dude and build a little bit more of a young core. I also would like to see them compete and try, but I'm less interested in, this team has shown 2 years in a row that they have the mettle to do it in the playoffs. They know what needs to be done. You're not really earning or gaining anything. It's like, all right, you're the 6th seed. You lose in 7 games, the 3 seed. That was fun. Like, if you win that series, you then get smoked by the 2 seed. Like, what are we doing? Are you in the play-in? It's like, all right, who cares? Like, none of these guys need playoff seasoning outside of maybe, Furphy or Walker a little bit, but they can get that next year. I'm more the team building aspect, where I want to see him play hard, compete, learn some things. Then I'm totally cool. Let's shut it all down in March. Let's drop out. Let's get maybe the ping pong balls break for us, or maybe you look at, can we package, can you package Shepherd and Walker and Furphy and that pick for something else? I don't know what that is. Maybe you don't use the pick, but you package it to get something else. Or maybe the lottery balls work right and you get a top 5 pick. So that in case, you have what happened to the Mavs. It's something you're sitting on a Cooper Flag. Or maybe you draft back. And I mean, oddly, the Pacers have shown a real ability to do well in the 2nd round. You look at this team, it's like you're mentioning Furphy. It's like, both Nemhart and Shepard were all second round picks by the Pacers. Like, they know how to do good second round picks. So I don't know. I hear you. I'm leaning more toward I'd rather see them take a chance at the lottery balls and let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And we just saw it happen to the Mavs. Maybe it's the pessimist in me because it feels like every year our team kind of jumps up and gets that first pick. I feel like the 1 year the Pacers are like in that spot to be that team or something, it would be the 1 year where like everything holds to form. Whoever the actual worst team is would just get the first pick, and the Pacers are stuck at the 10th spot, and you're like, well, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a pessimist in that aspect.
No, I hear you. But no, this is fun. It's a fun exercise to do this.
Yeah, it certainly was. So yeah, we're back to Pacers content. I know my last few episodes have been fever stuff, but with that season ending and the NBA season ramping up here, we'll be back for Pacers stuff here on Right Up Meridian. Once again, remember to listen to the rest of our Back Home Network podcast: Crimson Cast, Football Weather, The Big Red Carpet, Sideline Stories. I actually saw today Austin Render with the Dribble Drive is up in Chicago for the Big Ten Women's Basketball Media Days. So go check out whatever content he is kind of scheming around that and all of these Back Home Network shows. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of Right Up Meridian.